Well, I'd like to welcome everybody this morning. This, I believe, is the second session, and hopefully you all just looked at previously the archived webinar entitled Finding and Using OER. And so Jackie sent me some questions from the previous session, so I think what I'll do is just answer those right away. And hopefully that will provide some answers for you, and then we'll get into a discussion. One person, I think, had commented that why isn't there a central resource to find all of these? And I do believe MERLOT is that central resource. You can do a federated search of the other collections. Many of the open textbooks from the College Open Textbooks project are in MERLOT. Some of them have been contributed by Jackie. I've contributed some of them. We try to keep that updated as we get additional textbooks. So they do appear as materials within MERLOT. But if you don't find it in MERLOT, hopefully, as you saw from the previous session, or from the archive session, that you can do what we call the federated search, and you could search connections, OER Commons, College Open Textbooks on your own too. So we do all work together in order to provide these resources. There was also, I think, a question about the College Open Textbooks in MERLOT, and we're working on a project right now with them that I'm doing accessibility reviews. We have peer reviews in MERLOT. We do not do special accessibility reviews, but the College Open Textbooks are doing them. And if they have a review, we link that review to the textbook as it is cataloged in MERLOT. So there is a lot of working with each other to make sure that people have access to the open educational resources, because we are all open after all. So I hope that answers some questions. I think there was one other one, and I think it was answered in the session, but I'll just review it. And somebody had asked about the Creative Commons license. And we have asked all of our authors in MERLOT, the ones that have authored material, to provide a Creative Commons license on their site. And the advantage of the Creative Commons license, obviously, is that the author tells you how it can be used. And most authors say that it can be used by anybody who wants to use it, but for the most part, it's in a non-commercial application, which means that a company cannot reuse it and make money on this material, but if you're using it for educational purposes, you can use it. It makes it a lot clearer to the user about what they can do with the resource if the author tells them right up front, yes, if you're going to use it in your class, you may use it. So that Creative Commons license is very helpful for faculty in that respect. So I hope those are some of the questions that were answered for people that you had from the previous session. I wasn't able to attend. I think I came in at the tail end and there wasn't much of a discussion going on. And Margaret, yes, I do understand that having to look in multiple sites is tough. But I always talk about MERLOT because we do seem to be the central one in that you can search the materials in MERLOT. We have, from the MIT OpenCourseWare, all of their materials were massive uploads into MERLOT. So we have all of the open courses from MIT. We have many of the connections books in MERLOT. We also have most of the College Open textbook in MERLOT also. So I really think that hopefully we serve as the central resource for that. Well, I'm glad to see that. I think that, Margaret, that the Search Other Libraries has been very, very surprising to a lot of people. And I talk about MERLOT a lot, and it's just one of the things we do. And it's amazing that, you know, people are really surprised to see that. We have continued to add additional libraries. I think the Orange Grove Library out of Florida is now part of that federated search. Even YouTube, if you're looking for a specific item for educational purposes, you can search YouTube, Flickr. So there are just a lot of other libraries that you can, it's sort of a one-stop shopping, I guess. Instead of having you have to go to all of these ones, we can hopefully have you find them. And I did see a question from Margaret. Once you get the limited results from each library, can you then access all? Oh yes, because once I tell people that Merlot is not hosting these materials. We're like Google, but we only have educational materials, so we're kind of, I say we point, just like Google does, to those outside resources. So if you find something from our federated search that is in Connections, you're already in Connections. So you can search for anything else when you're in Connections. You can either go back to the Merlot search, or you can continue searching within that Connections library. I hope that answers your question, Margaret. And I really appreciate your participation with chatting, and encourage everybody else to do so also. I think what I'd like to do is just see, I don't know when all of you looked at the archive, but if you looked at it before an hour ago, did you try and do any searches for open educational resources yourself? I think maybe if you share some of your experiences.
This is David Trowbridge. I teach history courses, and recently published a Creative Commons textbook. Before I did that, I actually did check out Merlot and Connections. One of the issues I ran into was there was so much stuff, but it wasn't really moderated. And if there would have been ability for faculty to kind of comment and sort of rank the various things on there, would have been, I think, helpful.
Well, David, let me try and answer that. And I guess if you're referring to Merlot, when you are browsing materials in Merlot, for instance, if you're browsing the history collection, they are ranked, and we do peer reviews, and I don't want to take the focus away from any of these other collections, but let me just, if you don't mind, go to Merlot. Hopefully you can all see the Merlot. Are you all seeing it right now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And David, since you brought up history, it's in Humanities. So I'm going to click on Humanities, and we're browsing, and so we're going to come down here to History. We've recently had people ask for a lot of additional categories, which is why we have so many here now. We have 1,600 resources in History, and so I'm going to click on that. And this hit list of all these 1,600 resources is ordered by the ranking. When you're browsing. Now it's different when you're searching, but when you're browsing the materials, you see over here the overall rating appears. And this is by peer review as well as comments by faculty and students. So the highest rated materials come up first. And you see all these little badges. We started, you've heard a lot about badges, but we started using badges back in 2002 when we created Merlot Classics. What this classic means is that the History Editorial Board identified this resource as the best in the collection one particular year. And so all of these have been peer reviewed. This is an award or a badge that we no longer give. It's the editor's choice. And this means that all of the editors in all the disciplines decided this was the best resource. And so that means it's a very high quality, and you do have the peer review. So I can look at Crisis at Fort Sumter, but even before that, I can click on the peer review here. It's 5 stars, which is the highest rating. So I click on the peer review, and you have a very long explanation, first of all, of what's involved in the material. I'm going to try and move slowly down here so you can see what the learning goals are, who it's meant for, either advanced placement, high school, or college. And we have the 3 criteria: content quality, potential effectiveness as a teaching and learning tool, and down here the ease of use. And for each of those categories, we have the strengths in that area, the strengths and the quality of the content, and concerns. So you see here there are some concerns even though it is a 5-star rated material. So I think that when you're talking about, you know, judging what's better than something else, I think these are very clear indications of the quality of the material. And I'm just going to backspace and show you something else, which is the comments. And you said that they were not moderated. Well, anybody can make a comment on a material. All I did, sometimes I go through this too rapidly, and I apologize for that. Over here on the right, we see the comments. And this was not quite 5 stars, so not everybody gave it 5 stars. So I can click on the comments, and we see that there are a variety of types of people who made comments about it. These are expanded. They can be longer. Let me just first of all go to a faculty member, because I think it's always important for a faculty member to listen to what a faculty member says. So I'm just going to click on that comment, and she did not use it in her classroom, but she does have some comments about it. And then I'm just backing up again, and I do see this is something that I like, and this is a comment by a student. And so, you know, what's a student's impression of this site? And student can't spell very well down here. I just see a spelling error, which happens a lot, and didn't capitalize Abe Lincoln. But it's really interesting. Now, this is not the best comment, and the student didn't give it a rating. But you can comment on it if, you know, you have to be a member of Merlot, which is free. But you can comment on the material or any materials in Merlot. And I think looking at these comments is extremely helpful to anybody thinking about the resource, because keep in mind, we have not even gone to this resource yet. So I'm going to just back up here and point out one other thing, and this is personal collections. And the personal collections are basically what our executive director, Jerry Hanley, refers to them as a playlist. And that really makes some sense. And this is, I call it kind of a favorites list that anybody can create in Merlot. We always look at it as 86 people said, wow, this is a pretty good site that I want to come back to on a regular basis. So let me just click on personal collections. And I don't know why somebody would have it in microcomputers, but here's somebody that's teaching, I assume, a U.S. history course, or teaching about the Civil War. And so let's just go to the U.S. history course. And this individual, unfortunately, this individual, you can annotate these extremely, you know, you can say I would use this in such and such a chapter or whatever. So this is just kind of your own personal collection, and Tony here did not elaborate on them. Let's see if one of the other users did. Here's somebody who's teaching the Civil War. They did not, but I do see somebody down here that has history classics, and I believe this person, yeah, this person copied my history classics because you can easily copy a personal collection, and that's one of the things that is open about Merlot, is if you decide, and again, these are all the materials that won the History Classics Award from Merlot from 2002 to 2012. And this one is annotated, so you can explain what is there. And these are all materials that have received that award from Merlot. So annotating them is very, very helpful. You can do it for a class You could do it for just a topic like teaching history or whatever. So, David, you know, to counter your comment that there really isn't any way to moderate, I think there is. You can certainly find materials. And I mentioned when you are browsing the collection, if you were searching, I'm just going to put Civil War in the search box, and if we were searching, this only does it by relevance, so the highest quality materials don't go to the top, but the most relevant materials are there, and you can still find materials that have been peer-reviewed. In this case, Crisis at Fort Sumter, I think because it only had 4.5 stars in comments, is it dropped lower than some of the others. And I'm just going to follow up. Jackie, as I have been talking, has been adding some things in the comment box, and it's very true that our connections, I do want to say that please look at the chat box, because Jackie has been posting some things about the other collections there. So any questions from people? I will also mention, David, I hope you put your history book in Merlot. If you don't have the time, send me the URL and I'd be happy to do it. And Song, how easy is it to export or download the materials? We provide the website. If you're teaching an online class, you can embed that website in your class. If you want to do it as a presentation in your class, you can use it in your class, and that's really one of the things that we haven't talked about in a lot of detail, but one thing is finding them, and the other is how do you use them. And using them is very easy. I can just go to the material and play it in class. I can embed the URL so that students go directly to, for instance, the Crisis at Fort Sumter. And I can have my own discussion questions around that, or I may just send them to a certain segment of the site. But what we're really doing is providing something other than the textbook to help students interact with the materials and engage the students more than the textbook or my lecture does. So it's very easy. And I'll tell you, SoftTalk is fantastic. And in using SoftTalk, there is a click available that you can also automatically upload that to Merlot with you providing a little bit of the metadata. So SoftTalk is a fantastic editing tool for you to create courses and your own content for your courses. What about some of you that have used OERs in your classes? Can anybody comment on that?
Cathy, maybe you're still muted. I have a question from Alex.
Yeah, I'm looking at that, and actually what I'm doing is thinking. So what you're talking about, Alex, is printing it yourself and then charge the students for it. I personally think if it were at cost, it would be okay, but my suggestion would be to contact the author first and let them know what you plan to do. For instance, Judd's book, if you're talking about that, I don't know if you want to print that because some students might prefer reading it online. There are probably some students who would publish it, who would print it themselves because they like that method of being able to read something in their hands as opposed to reading something on screen. But that could certainly be an option for students. But I think in all cases, if you wonder what you can do, contact the author. That's correct, Margaret. A lot of the Flat World textbooks will print it for you, I believe, and there's just a very at cost type option for it. You can either read it online or they'll print it for you. And I think that's true of most of the textbooks that are in the College Open Textbook also.
So we actually put a little note next to a textbook if a bound copy is available. So then you can click on that and go to Lulu or Flat World Knowledge or wherever it is that you can order a bound copy. Turns out it's usually cheaper to buy the bound copy than to go to a copy shop and photocopy it or print it on your printer.
Good point, Jackie.
Paper and ink. So Cathy, we need to wrap up. So thank you so much for moderating this section. I'm going to stop the recorder in a second and let all of you run over and watch the next session on creating and using OER, and we will have some more information about using SoftChalk in that session. Marie will be moderating a discussion an hour from now. Again, thank you very much, Cathy.